Cents Per Mile, featuring Charles Gracie and Paul Gibson, with loads of recruiting and marketing experience and backed by the largest driver audience in the world. We deliver carriers the driver perspective, find solutions, and help make sense.
Welcome to Cents Per Mile. I'm your host, Charles Gracie.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson. What are we talking about today, Charles?
Tenstreet, Vegas.
Oh, yeah, because you went last week and I didn't. You got out from behind the desk to go behind the desk at the Tenstreet conference. And now you're back behind your desk. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not in Vegas anymore, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was exhausting, but I'm sure it was fun, though, right?
It was fun, and I left up again. Tradition continues.
That is insane.
I sat down, put 20 in, and won 500.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is,
Keeping the trend.
It's like that one from last year when you're like, oh, I'm new to it, and you post it, and then you hit the jackpot. That's ridiculous. I've never been up more than 50% what I gave myself to gamble ever. But, going wasn't a gamble. I'm sure there's a lot to learn.
It was some pretty interesting stuff. Great networking opportunities. It was missing something.
Yeah, I would agree.
You were missed.
Fair enough. All right. I'm only a little bitter, but I am not bitter that it is time to do the stuff we do every episode. So if you listen to podcasts like you're doing right now, you can find us on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere that you watch, listen to podcasts, we're there. So if you could like, subscribe, rate, helps push us out a little bit further, helps us to do some pretty cool stuff, like go to Tenstreet. What else can you do, Charles?
You can also go to centspermilepodcast.com. You can suggest a topic to be a guest or even to be a sponsor.
Sponsors. Speaking of sponsors, who's our sponsor today, Charles?
MVT, starting from loading to unloading and maintaining the highest standards in terms of safety while in transit. They take nothing to chance. Check them out at m-v-t.com.
All right. Well, it's time for the news. China and the U.S. have come to an agreement, a truce for at least another 90 days, that they'll drop things. So I believe, according to the article, what's happening is the U.S. tariffs on China is going to go from 145% to 30%, and China's is going to go 125% down to 10% on U.S. goods. I feel like, it says that, obviously transportation rates are going to get higher during that little boom. But is it just a boom? Is it going to change again?
It changes every day, every hour. I mean, tariffs, no tariffs, tariffs, no tariffs, double tariffs, no tariffs.
I'm not even sure we're out of the first 90-day span when it happened. Did the first one even start? What year is it? 90 days? 30 days? I have no idea.
You know what I know? That it's going to change.
Everything changes. Everything changes sometimes for the better, but then not right after it. But then back, though. So it'll be better, at least for a little while before it gets worse or not as bad as it was. Sure. Love the news.
It's all getting better. This is huge, Paul. It's huge. We're making trucking great again.
Yeah. Tell you what, I have to agree with you about once every 8 days, but I would disagree on the other 7 in between. The market is changing in a more stable way with the stuff that Tenstreet has to offer from the UX conference. So we'll let Charles get to interviewing them as we go in a very, very extended version of Behind the Desk.
All right, it's time to go behind the desk. And normally this is only a couple minutes with Tenstreet, but we just came off UCONNECT in Vegas. So I'm being joined by Julie and Drew from Tenstreet, and we're going to go a little bit longer. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, Charles.
Thanks for having us.
It's always an awesome time to have you guys on, but I think I'm especially looking forward to this one because we're going to digest and break down UConnect in Vegas. So, I mean, it's always a blast to be with Tenstreet in general, but being in Vegas with Tenstreet is a little different. You guys have this whole conference that you've built where you guys do it a little differently too. You guys have team members there to address the client's concerns on site. You have content being dropped. There's always unveils of new tech coming out. And then it's Vegas, so there's networking events, and it's a 24-hour city, so we're all feeling 24-hour city effects.
Yeah, I was about to say, we've been working really hard to get everything ready for Vegas, and now that it is come and gone, it's like we're all like a little bit shell-shocked. So we got back, the conference ended on Friday night, and then it's Monday, so we're ready to
It's a thing. It's a thing. And we're all here.
We all made it.
Yeah. So when we're talking the Tenstreet UConnect conference, and it's going to take me a minute because for so many years we called it the user conference. I've adopted it easier than I thought. What's one of the things out of this year's one that stands out most to you, Julie?
Yeah, every year, we get to hear about the products a lot, see some of the products before we get there. And so it's really fun to listen in on the sessions, but usually we've heard and seen some of that. So really the best part is getting to connect with the clients during the sessions, right after the sessions, at lunch, breakfast, lunch. And then we usually have dinner with clients after. So that's always been my favorite part is those dinners are just full of connection. We always have a few different clients there. And so they get to talk about how they use Tenstreet and their experiences. And it is so much fun to watch them networking with each other and just being there to kind of support the whole thing.
Nice. For myself, I found it was kind of nostalgic. You guys provided a cool scenario where my last carrier that I drove for was in attendance. And then someone tried to throw a curveball and like, what kind of driver was Charles? And the right answer came out. I was awesome, by the way. But no, it was kind of nostalgic to see them there because it just shows how much this thing's grown. This was their first time in attendance and they were there. They were loving it. It was fun. You saw a lot of new faces. That was another thing I noticed. A lot of the same faces, but also plenty of new ones. So great networking. What about for you, Drew?
Yeah, like Julie said, the dinners are probably my favorite part just because they are, unlike some conferences where you're like, hey, there's a big buffet, you guys go mill around, and then everybody sits with people they know. We match people up. They send them to dinner in like 8 to 10 folks, and then we all have dinner together, like sometimes family style, sometimes just like all hanging out, getting stuff. And it is just like the coolest thing if you've not been to conferences and you don't know people. You then see people the next day and you're like, oh, hey, we had this conversation and kind of lead that on.
Yeah, the client dinners are fantastic.
Yeah, they're great. But as far as features go,
nice segue, Drew. Nice save.
That's where I was going with it. But as far as features go, my favorite thing that we announced was actually what I got to talk about on stage was One Tap. So One Tap is pretty cool. People are loving it already. We've been testing it with folks. I've been heavily involved with this one. And I can confidently say, like, when I was recruiting still, before I was at Tenstreet, this would have changed my life. And I think it's really cool to, take a part in something like that. And we have, so One Tap, what it does is the driver applies from somewhere like Indeed or a lead form, and you just get a little bit of information from them. Well, when Tenstreet matches them with their Pulse profile when they apply, we send them a notification. They're like, hey, buddy, do you want to fill out just a little bit more information? It's not a full application because we know the driver just wanted to do a lead app, right? And so they hit yes. And when they hit yes, wherever they applied for, that carrier gets their employment information and their personal information. So let's say that you're applying, the application's coming in somewhere that doesn't give a zip code by default, right? This will autofill that zip code.
Like every Indeed lead that comes in.
I wasn't trying to drop names, but yes, those Indeed leads are that way, right? Because Indeed doesn't like to share that. Facebook also doesn't like to share lead zip codes just because of privacy stuff. But this enables the driver to have that ownership of their information, hand that back to the recruiter and say, hey, I'm interested. In addition to that, so really it does two things. It's personal information, and then it gives their employment history. Because when I was recruiting, sometimes, like, you can see a lot of things from employment history. Is this, is there a lot of experience there? Is this a first time flatbed driver and I require flatbed experience? All of that stuff enables me to talk to that driver and have a good conversation versus just getting on and say, hey, I know your name's Ronald, but I know nothing else about you. I can say, hey, it looks like you've been driving flatbed here for 20 years. Tell me a little bit about that. And it really sets that conversation up to go really well. So I've been really excited about it. I could go on and on about it.
And we should, because I got to play with it when I got back from UC, and it was pretty cool. We even had a brief discussion before hopping on the show about it, because one of the things that came to my mind, recruiter default thinking is, hey, can you get that thing to ask how many jobs? And you're like, you don't need it to, because it's pulling that information. I'm like, so now I have to find a new way to break it, because that's my thing. You guys get.
But we're going to be able to, as this continues to grow, it's in the near future, we're going to be able to customize the questions you ask the drivers, and then kind of send them through different flows on, hey, do you have your hazmat? And if they hit yes, connect them with, the person. They get a phone call, connects them to the recruiter right then and there if they want to call, right? So that way, kind of the main thing about this is, since we know, that we have the driver's past applications, you have that network effect. And so rather than sending that driver to a different AI chatbot where it has to ask them this information, the driver just hits yes. Right?
It's all in one spot. It's easy for the driver. It's great for the recruiter. I mean, heck, I was even looking this morning. My website volume went through the roof since that got turned on. And I kept getting these notifications. And I realized, because of how my autoresponder was set up, I was directing them to the website. Like, just having that immediately, I kept getting these submissions. And I was like, something changed. Then I logged into Tenstreet. I'm like, oh, all my new tools and toys are here. Yay. It's like Christmas for recruiters.
Totally Christmas for recruiters.
It is. And that was just one of many things. So you guys had that passport where people, got to explore each one of the new tools. And usually we come into this thing like, all right, something big is going to be announced, maybe one or two things, but we got 5. Did I count that right? There was like 5.
Yeah, there were
6. Oh, my bad. There was 6.
6, yep.
So, do either one of you want to take us through those big announcements, those unveils?
Yeah, I can. So Charles was talking about, we had the passport stations, and this was new this year, where usually it's kind of like hey, you heard about all these things, we turned them on, they're in your dashboard. This year, we did a little more proactive approach where, hey, we're going to have different stations set up for each of these 6. We call them the big 6. We unveiled a lot of new features, but these were the big ones. And hey, come to a table, turn this on. We'll, if you have any questions, we're going to answer questions at each of those tables. And it was really fun. We had a little passport stamp. It was
cool.
Yeah. So it was one tap apply, call me now, fit and interest score, exchange summary tool, DQF readiness, and pulse job filters.
All right. So that seems like a lot, and it is. Let's walk through those briefly. Like, we don't have to go in the weeds here. I know you guys just came off Vegas, but you want to give me kind of a quick snippet of each one of those?
So just a little background on Julie and I. So I usually deal with a lot more of the recruiting, being from the recruiting world before I was at Tenstreet. That's where I focus on. I'm going to let Julie do all the fun safety stuff that me as a recruiter find a little distasteful. So
you don't like seeing your applicants get dropped off?
No, in fact, I had, my safety director always used to laugh at me for saying, but he's a good guy when,
everyone's a good guy when you're a recruiter.
When they're to the recruiter, they're all worth it. It's a one-time thing. So let's talk about, so I did one tap. Call me now is part of one tap, but also can be used separately. That way you can have that driver connect with you. And
now, is it connected directly through Tenstreet or to the phone system?
Yeah. So when one tap, or when the driver applies, they get an option to request a call. And what that does is that we call the driver and then we call the recruiter. And so it's almost like a party line with Tenstreet on the party, right? And so that way you don't have to call in or connect with your phone line. It just all calls like you're used to. Everybody, when they pick up, it's good. And then if you want to, it can record the call and give you call notes, a summary, all in either a full audio file or kind of a paper summary that's uploaded with the subject. So that way, if somebody calls in and talks to an after hours recruiter, you've got it all right there. Or if the driver says, "Hey, I don't remember you covering this one," you've got it likewise recorded and in that section there.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that one's great. And the other thing is pulse filters. So driver pulse is obviously a huge part of Tenstreet. Tons of drivers find jobs on there. The vast majority, I want to say it's in the 80 to 90 percentile of drivers have it installed and have at some time used driver pulse. So what we did there is you can look for jobs in Pulse. And so you can now look for kind of more granular filters. Before we just had like flatbed, dry van, reefer as the big groups. But now we have things like, car hauling, intermodal, and things like that we didn't have before. So those specific kinds of drivers can find a match in Pulse Match that's a better match for them and their experience.
It's crazy to watch how this has progressed. Because if you look at I remember Tenstreet as a recruiter, it was still growing and it was still big back then. It's even bigger now. But to watch all these new tools, if you didn't see old Tenstreet, you can't truly appreciate what today's Tenstreet encompasses. Because there's entire services out there that are built, but you got to go here for this, you got to go here for this, and it's a pain for not only the recruiting director to orchestrate all that, because it's all being done externally outside of your ATS, but it doesn't log all that. So now you're forcing recruiters to manually go in there and log these different encounters versus now it's all in one Encompass system and it logs them automatically in one place.
And what also happens is now you don't have to worry about is my IT team going to have to connect everything and get all of that sort of stuff connected? If they call, on a lot of those phone call things, if you're on your cell or something like that, as many recruiters do, I used to, they don't, they're like, "Oh crap, I should have recorded that conversation." It automatically records and it gets that consent from the driver to record and lets them know it'll be recorded before it starts the call, which is really nice.
And so we've covered a couple, but there's a couple more left. I think he's dumping that on you, Joey.
I am.
I think I'm up. So fit and interest score is going to do a little, it's definitely a recruiting tool, but also trying to get into the safety, right? Like looking over an application. This is stuff that I was going to say is really cool to watch, things that our clients have brought up at user conference. During the dinners that we love so much, saying, "Hey, what would be really cool?" And we're taking notes. We're already sending emails on our phones like, "Oh, hey guys, this is, something our clients are looking at." I feel like fit and interest score is one of these that our clients have been saying, it would be cool. And we have found a way to say, we're going to prioritize some of these applicants based on things that are important to you and their fit and then their interest, showing us, hey, these guys, these are the guys that are actively pursuing your job as well. So that's going to be really cool.
So how do they measure? And if you don't know, it's okay. I know a lot of this rollout, but how is the interest measured?
It goes through, like I was saying, with any of those recorded calls, those notes there, those it can look at those. It also looks at, hey, is the driver engaging on Pulse? Are they, how are those conversations going? And so basically we're comparing it to the other drivers that are applying out there and saying, hey, how interested is this driver? Are they buying what you're selling? Right. Because a lot of times you don't really know if the driver's buying what you're selling. So it helps give an indicator there. Now, of course, drivers are complicated and any applicant's complicated. So got to take it with a grain of salt, but it's a good indicator.
People are complicated.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a good directional, how is this going, right? Sort of situation.
Kind of thermometer to the situation.
Exactly. And now the fit score is a little bit tighter of it, right? We're looking at their accidents, violations and their total experience, and are they a good fit for the job? So that's why it's kind of interesting. I love we did a puzzle piece. It's like the icon for this, right? Are they going to fit with what this job requires? And that one is really based on the data that you've got on the driver and that changes as things happen and as you update their application.
What's the data that you guys got on the driver? That's what's allowed this to happen. You guys have been doing this for so long. Like I said, it's amazing to watch how it's progressed. And I imagine part of that is as things have grown, you guys had access to more and more of it, which allows you to put these tools to supplement the recruiting efforts. So being a recruiter that's looking at this, I'm like, this makes my life easier. You just wonder, okay, what's next? We just finished UCONNECT and I'm already like, all right, what are they up to next?
Yeah.
Hey, we're already talking about what's next. So we were talking about while we were there. I was having conversations with a client and some developers, and they're like, "Man, that's a really good idea." It's those kind of like we were literally standing out during like a snack time, right? Sipping on what it was like this like green brown juice that they had served us. It looked like moss water, but it tasted good.
Whoever planned the food is looking back at this now.
I know, right? No, everything was great. But the like sitting there and talking with, connecting like client with the idea and having them connect directly with the people responsible for making those kind of ideas is really cool, because then they don't have to get filtered through calls or figure out what they're talking about over email. They can sit down side by side and talk about it, sharing, kind of going back and forth on their laptops, and kind of the collaboration sort of method there.
Well, and then Julie, you kind of broached upon it a little bit. You guys got into the safety side of this because you realize a lot of safety professionals are now hopping into this system and working in it. And a lot of carriers are centralizing Tenstreet as their ATS, but also to help with the process inside, because we often see the bigger they are, the more they're splitting into two teams to handle this. You got your recruiting, and then it goes into processing. A big component of that is the DQ file process. Those start getting built in the recruiting process, and they take forever to build. And you guys have centralized that and offered tools. Us recruiters just think the processing is slow and takes forever, but there's a whole lot that goes into that.
Yeah. So we're doing a lot to just make those two teams work better together. And that's the beauty of Tenstreet, is you don't have to have two different systems for this stuff, that all of the teams can work together. It's all happening simultaneously. The exchange summary tool is going to help a bunch with that. Obviously, we've got one of the biggest networks for, providing and requesting verifications of past employment in exchange. So the exchange summary tool, to put it really simply, we're going to be able to look at potential missing employers now. We're going to reconcile the information that we're getting from the driver and everything else we've gotten from the driver in the past. So that's new. And then just simplifying the process, being able to automate requests to go out at the time of application. So just a little facelift on exchange, which is awesome, because it's
you
been
make it sound little, but like these are things that are detrimental to the time to hire.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, so something that I was really, really thrilled to see hopefully go the way of the Mammoth is like when drivers are applying, they love to put multiple, like each time they worked at a place, and they have the same employer multiple times, because sometimes it's easier for them just to input it. And
I just had one this morning. They just add, and it becomes like a slice of lasagna. It's the same employer, but it's listed multiple times, because every time it does let you. One thing that I liked about that, though, is it does let you know the evolution of the driver's interest, because every time they've done that, that's essentially a new time that they were out there filling applications. And so you could see, of course, the flip side of that is
you got to go merge
to
them
go
all
in there
together.
and condense them down. But at least it gave me an idea. All right, this is an applicant I want to talk to. He's been searching for 6 months. There's 6 of these in there. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this guy's done 6 of these in a day.
Yeah. And I mean, I hope you're not too attached to that, Charles, because hopefully most people don't care for those.
No, I don't either.
Okay, good. Hopefully that's going to,
they're going away.
So what we're doing is, when you go in, Charles, and you talk to that guy and you merge them together and you do it, we send that driver an update to like the application that they have, like that's theirs, and they can accept those changes, and this is after the hiring process is done. About 3 days, I think, is the timeline on it. So afterwards, they accept that change, and then it's incorporated into their application on it. Even if you don't hire the driver, if you talk to him or whatever, let's say you fixed a typo on an employer in 2012 that he had on there. So that driver now has the ability to update that on their side, and it incorporates that change. So that way, the next time they apply, it saves the next recruiter time. And then you're going to save time, because the recruiter before you, their changes are saved. They're already doing it, but we're just carrying that time and effort over into the next recruiter, which is really great.
Yeah, just making that network effect stronger. Every change that the driver has made for any other place is now just making this data more accurate, making these applications more and more accurate.
So I'm going to say it. So it's like a universal app.
Sort of.
Inside joke.
It is better. So
Drew's trying to find the laugh.
no, I got this one. So, unlike a lot of things out there, I think that a common theme as we're talking through our tools is we're giving the driver the choice and the control there. There are a lot of tools out there that when something was updated, it just updated everywhere and didn't ask the driver to agree, disagree, and go through and verify those changes, right? The driver control, hey, would be it one tap with sharing that additional information, or the driver control with, hey, is the change made accurate? In the past, there were certain systems that would just accept that change and move it on to the next recruiter, and the driver would have to go in and manually change it rather than approve the change, right? So it's a informed consent versus holy crap, how did that get there consent.
So that comment about the universal app was for you, Brian Schaefer. You've been on the show, always asking for it. Wanted to give you some love. A lot of what you guys have done, and I always found unique about Tenstreet, was you guys actually listen to the end user, not just the driver, but the carriers and the recruiters. You guys were never shy about rolling up your sleeves and listening to the recruiters outside of the recruiting directors. And so we've heard a lot of these things over the past couple of years. This is a pain point. This is a pain point. And you see them systematically get knocked down. It might not be ideally what someone, but it was, you guys encompass the whole picture rather than just that one vision. And you find a way to always connect it back to both sides of the users. Because you guys have two users. You got the drivers and the carriers.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool to see how that all shakes out in the end. It's always interesting when I hear one of those ideas and one of you guys are like just pop up and you're like, oh, and then all of a sudden it manifests into a solution later on. It's fun to watch how that transpires.
Yeah, it's really cool. I get to go to, in person to client visits a lot. And one of my favorite things is when a recruiter says, hey man, I wish that the system did this. And I'm like, holy shit, that's a great idea. Like, let's, and I'm like texting people, like trying to get it on there, and we're going through and problem solving it. And usually within like 2 or 3 days, I have an idea put together and we submit it to our products team for consideration in the next year. And we have those all the time. And we, don't hold back. If you have those things, reach out to one of us, reach out to somebody, and it'll get on there. We do listen to those all the time.
Absolutely.
I have an idea.
Go for it.
You know how you got the scorekeeper in the top right-hand corner for the recruiters? I think whoever wins that for each organization should win like a Starbucks gift card.
I get people asking me how to redeem that all the time.
No, it was cool. Honestly, it was a great event. Tons of great content, insights, forecasts, unveils, networking opportunities. I keep hearing about these Tenstreet dinners. Bump, Drew. No, I had to bust your chops there. But it's a fantastic event. And it's in Vegas. I look forward to seeing what you guys have. But if someone wanted to talk to you guys and they're on the fence, maybe I want Tenstreet, maybe I don't, maybe I want to turn on these features, how would they find you guys?
Yeah, we've got if you're not a Tenstreet user, come find us on LinkedIn, anywhere. So go to tenstreet.com or download Driver Pulse. Take a look at what the driver side looks like, because that's what your drivers are going to see first. If you're a driver, go there. It's really cool. But yeah, and you could also go to, Julie, is it sales@tenstreet.com? Is that the right email address?
Sales@tenstreet.com.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys as always, and look forward to more down the line. But if they want to see you guys, they can also check out Behind the Desk on Cents Per Mile.
That's true. Right here. They're already here though.
Appreciate y'all.
All right. Thanks, Charles.
Thanks.
Mesilla Valley Transportation, founded by truck drivers for truck drivers. Why choose MVT? Well, it's simple.
I started off as a driver. Now I'm managing routes. With MBT, the sky's the limit.
Balance is key. State-of-the-art equipment, a strong focus on safety, and a family-driven company culture where respect and hard work are at the core. Mesilla Valley Transportation, where we care about you. Join our family today.
That was great. Tons of great insights from Drew and Julie. Tenstreet did a fantastic job. Paul, you were missed. I mean, yeah, you were missed. But as every time, It's coming to a close. Thank you for tuning in to Cents Per Mile. I'm Charles Gracie.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson. See you next time.